time. This is a very simple box. What you can actually fold it out of a 6-inch square, which is these cute little guys, or the one I think I put it on the website. It's a 10-inch. No, I'm sorry, it's a 12-inch square. You can do 10-inch square, whatever size you want, but it needs to be a square, and that's important. The other thing is having double-sided paper is helpful. It's not absolutely necessary, of course. If you don't have double-sided paper, there's always ways to decorate the white side, whether it be painting or doing anything afterwards. Fabric, if you have fabric and you stiffened it ahead of time, these boxes are great with fabric as well. So I just kind of wanted to tell you what's nice about them is that they fold, they're flat when you store them, and you can insert them in a journal. There's so many things you can do with these. And I noticed that I call them a pop-up box because they do pop up. They just have this natural spring to them, especially on heavier papers. And they're really cool because you can put messages, you can hear, you could just put a little message, just say if you wanted to put that in your journal, when you open your page, it pops up and you can see your message, which I think is really cool. If you want to use it just to store things, I found you could put coins, a couple of coins, or a little, there's just little things you can do with it. It's just, they're really neat. Now on the 12-inch size, I found these are great to, and I created these bands for them because the bands keep that box from popping up, of course. So now it kind of slides, everything slides together and you have a nice little closure. That is a nice thing to have around. And what I found, what I love about this is, as you know, yesterday, Tanya did a class with us on the mending, and here's where I'm keeping my thread and my needle. So it makes a really nice container for storing needles, especially threaded needles, because I'll tell you, I have a tendency to poke myself. So I have a cat that needs to be let out of the room. Excuse me. You can come out. Go ahead. Bye-bye. Go. Sorry about that. She does that every time. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this box and we're going to create the little band that wraps around it. And I'll show you it's really simple. So we'll start with the folding first. And then I'll give you the measurements for everything on the other stuff. So what you need, if you are going to make the band, you just need some double stick tape, scissors, you might need scissors, some glue, whatever you have to attach this band. That's the only glue you need. So we'll start folding the actual box. And this is such a simple fold. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your paper and this is the side that I want to be on the inside, and this is the side I want to be on the outside. So I'm starting with my pattern side down, or color side down, however you want. If you have a white side up, that's okay. So start by folding your paper in half. Give it a nice crease, open it, turn the paper and fold it in half in the other direction. And then crease it. Now, you'll see you have this crisscross thing going here. You want to fold only you want to fold the top and the bottom edges. You won't be folding these yet. So I'm going to start by folding the bottom lowest corner up to that center crease. Not over it, just right to it. Maybe even a little bit away from it, just a tiny hair, maybe just an itty bitty time, not to go over. You just don't want it to hit over that. And just go ahead and crease that. Turn the paper and do the same thing on this other side. Just fold that right to that part there. Now open it up and fold these corners to this crease we just made. So I'm just going to fold this corner to that first crease, and then fold this corner to that first crease. So now what we have is we've got these corners and these lines here. So now everything is going to go towards the center. So I'm going to take this folded edge on the bottom, outermost bottom. I'm just going to fold it it already has a crease made. I just fold it on itself. Same thing with the crease that's already been made. No new creases here yet. So I've got those folded, and now I'm just going to fold again. This time I'm making a new crease, but I'm going to use this part as my guide. And I'm going to fold it right to the center, right to meet that center line, or this horizontal crease. And it feels like you might want to double over. Sometimes I just noticed if you don't fold this little corner all the way to that first crease, you may have a problem. So that's what I realized I didn't do that. So I'm just going to adjust my fold to go up to meet that, and I'm going to recrease it a little bit. I'm going to do the same on the other side just to make sure, because I did see I actually am about 1/16 of an inch short, and I just want to make sure that crease, that fold gets right to that edge there, or even slightly over. It wouldn't hurt. So now I'm just going to go back and close that back, and now I'm going to just fold my edge right to that center on one side, and then repeat on the other side. So now I've got this kind of elongated belt band kind of shape. So if that's where we're all at, so you can see this is basically pretty easy. Now you'll see there is a crease right here that you could see if you were to fold it over, you would see this crease. You're not folding it yet, but there it is. So that is the guide that this is where I'm going to be guided next. This crease is what I'm going to follow this crease by taking this long edge, or this edge on my top left side. I have a folded edge here that's in the center. I'm going to bring this edge to meet that crease. Now, this is a interesting move. I'm not flattening anything yet, but I'm just going to flatten. I'm going to bring it over to meet that crease, and then I'm just going to flatten it only to this first, where it wants to stop. You basically don't have a choice. It won't let you flatten it anymore. So as you can see, I've got this edge, I have folded it to meet that, just to kind of lay on next to this crease right here. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom side. And it's kind of becoming three-dimensional right now. That's the pop-up feature. But just crease it without, it won't let you do anything else. It's now kind of a scooper thing. So you see how I've got that, right? So now what I'm going to do is this, now that that's nicely creased, I'm going to fold this whole thing over, and I want this line, this crease right here, to match this one on the right side. And I'm going to just fold it over, and it will naturally go. It won't really, you don't need to make anything new. It should naturally go, and it should lay right on top of this line that's underneath. So now I'm going to go ahead and crease everything. And now I have these 2 points that need to be just, not a new crease, just going to reverse the crease and fold them right into that center. And there are creases that are already there. And if your paper is thick like mine, you do need a bone folder, because everything wants to pop up. And now I've got this triangle shape here that I need to fold in. So I'm just going to fold this edge right in, just to kind of tuck and kind of meet. And if it's not perfect on either side, it's okay. But I'm just basically folding this edge to meet this center, this crease here, or this section. Now the next step is, there's 2 ways to do this. I can stop that folding, and which I think I'm going to do that in the next one. And this is the way I want you to see, so that we can make them like this. So the next step, or the very last on this side, is I need to fold these corners into this right in here. So I'm folding this corner here, and I'm going to fold that corner. And it doesn't have to be perfectly perfect. If you want that point to be really pointy, you can always adjust it a little bit, which there I just did. I'm just going to adjust it a little to make a nice point. And then I'm going to take the whole thing that I just folded, this top layer, this is one side of the box. I'm going to take, and I'm going to fold it right to on this crease here. So I'm just going to fold it over, and it's, now that it's really thick, it's going to be, you've got to use your bone folder. I have now made one side of the box, so I'll just show you how this works. I see it's kind of, there's the half, that's one side. all I need to do is repeat exactly what I did on this side. And the best way I do it is I just turn it around and I'm going to repeat the same thing. Bringing this center edge, folded edge, and I'm going to just have it lay right over next to that top and line up against this center line here. I'm going to just get my finger in there and flatten it. That little crease on the inside. Same thing, I'm bringing this edge and I'm just kind of getting that to where that folds. And I'm just going to lay it over the same thing. Just want it to lay over, kind of lining up with this line. Let's say that line goes all the way out. Let's just make sure, if I'm using a grid, which really helps, but just kind of make sure when you do fold it over, it lines up. And now the same thing, going to repeat the fold. These little folds have to go in, the top and the bottom corners, and then take the right corner and fold it in as well. And everything should line up, whatever is underneath, you want it to line up. You want the top layer to line up. And then the last part is to fold the little triangles right inside this to give it a nice little point. And I have a cat that's having a fit. Okay, and now taking this layer and I'm just going to fold it back. And now I finished my box. And you'll see it's an adorable little pop-up box, very sturdy. Actually, the bigger you make these, the more, versatile. You can make them as big as you want. Any square will do. So the next step to keep this to go down, and I'll show you that after I've constructed the band and the little top, I'll show you on a smaller piece of paper another way to make this edge different. There's actually 3 different ways to make these edges. One is where you can have the whole panel out, and that gives you room to write notes and do different things. The other one is you can even make a heart shape, but that will be in a different class because I forgot how to do that. But I do know the 2 types. So to make the belt, this is super easy. You just need a strip of paper. You can make it double thick or just one side, but I'm going to do double, I think. So I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm just going to create like a belt. So, oops, it's got to be evenly folded in half. I want that to be, that's really thick, so it's just not, there we go. So I want that to be kind of like a band. And I could do it, I could have folded it in a couple of times to create a very nice finished edge, but in this case, it's maybe too thick to do that, so I'm just going to go back to my single strip. But you take a strip of paper, you hold your box closed, and then you decide how you want to do this. You would just wrap it around, and I just basically start the top, and I'm going to just bring it around, fold it, and wrap it. And there's some folding involved, but you don't want to go too tight, so you'll want to be able to slide this band off and on. So now I'm just going to kind of mark where I'm going to trim it, and I'll scissor this edge off. Now you can see I've got a nice area here with lots of place to glue. You want it to have an overlap enough so that your glue, you'll have a place to glue, or using double stick tape, whatever you have. I'm just going to use a tape gun real quick. I'm just going to tape gun that thing. Oops. It almost wanted to tape to itself. There you go. I'm just going to tape it closed. Actually, it's better to do it with the box on, so you just don't go so tight. So sometimes if I do it the other way, it'll be too tight and it won't slide off. So now I've got that attached. Okay, so that's how I want it. And to create just an embellishment, I cut a piece of cardstock. Actually, this one would look fun, I think. And I basically just cut a piece of cardstock a little bit smaller than the square on the top, and then I'll just put it on here. Otherwise, it won't. I'll just put some double stick tape on this. Like you can use glue or glue dots or anything like that. And while it's closed, I'm just going to lay it right on top. And then that will be the finished piece. Notice I have a little tape or little paper under that. So I'm just going to trim that off. I can go inside here and just trim those little weird looking edges off. Now, if I hadn't done, I could have, there we go. Now it looks clean, and it's a very functional piece of something that you could use, and it would look so great with fabric too. So let me show you one more time on how to fold it. This is with the 6-inch, and I'll show you how to do the other style of the other style, just so you can see it. Plus, I'll just gives you another chance to go over that fold. All right, so you start with the pattern side down and fold it in half diagonal direction. And then open it up, fold it half again. I'm going to take the points on the top and the bottom side and fold them to meet the line in the center, but not to go over it, just to meet it. I'm going to open it up, take these same two ends and go to that line. You might even want to go slightly over. There's the reason that just makes it a little easier to fold to the center. So I'm going to go slightly over the line on this one, just a tiny bit, a little bit over. And now I'm just going to close those down and then fold to the center, that center horizontal line on both sides. So now you'll have a belt or a band. So there's this crease, I don't know if you see it, but this little crease that goes right here. That's where I want to make my next move. I'm just going to fold this edge, bring this whole edge, and it wants to lift up, but just go ahead, let it lift up, and place your hand or your thumb, anything to secure that, and then press all the way back as far as it can go to start to do that, make that crease back in here. Same thing on this side, and just as it lifts up, that's okay. And you just have kind of a scooper thing, and you can see it just automatically as you, when you want to lay it down, it just kind of, it naturally goes in the way it's supposed to go. And I'm just going to crease and bring these corners in. Now, a little differently, what I did before was so I've got these corners, you see those, and I'm going to bring this last corner in. And now I'm not going to do any more folding after that at this point, except instead of making points like I did with the last one, I'm just going to bring the whole thing over and just kind of fold it backwards. And so instead of a point, it's going to have a different handle that's a little bit longer. So this is a more narrowed handle, and this will be a flat handle. And that's fun because you can decorate that. You can add things to it. So there's different ways to do that. Have fun with that. So the left side, I'm just going to repeat exactly what I did. And bring those edges and flatten and fold over. Now, if it's like I'm noticing, if you want to check to make sure everything's lined up, you just can turn it over and just make sure it's following that crease that's in the center before you totally, commit to the creases. And I'll go ahead and lay it down and bring in these folds to kind of line up with the folds that are underneath. And now, if I fold that backwards, I have this adorable little, it works the same way, but it has a much larger handle. And so the heart one, though, I know there's a way to do it where you fold it and create this heart shape. And I think I kind of remember how. You would have to, it's just a little, I forgot which, I think it's inside here you would do something. So, or you could cut it, which is a no-no in origami, but I can break the rules because I want to. So if I create the heart, this is so easy to create the heart. You can kind of see the bottom of the heart is already going to be made by folding those corners in. And to get that top part into a heart shape, I'm going to just trim this. I've never trimmed it before. We'll see. Usually I fold it, but let's just see what happens. This is the time to experiment. Just going to trim a little bit, like about 1/4 of an inch at the top. And now I'm going to fold that little corner backwards just a little bit. And oh yes, this will work way better actually than the original diagram. And I'll fold this corner back just a little bit where I cut. And I'll fold this just a little because I want to create that heart shape. And as you can see on this side, it already has one side of the heart. And then the last part on this one is to just fold this back a little bit. And now you can see I've got a sweet little, it's a little heart. You can shape it any way you want, but there is the little heart. And then when you open the lid, it actually opens up a lot easier with the cutting, because in the other one where you fold it, then it kind of constricts this part here and it doesn't fold out as easy. So that's a nice little variation. That'd be fun. So you can do that for, you've got 3 different styles. Well, I don't have the other one now because I covered it up. So you have 3 different ways to create your handles. So that is, and the other trick I wanted to tell you before I sign off is, before we chat, is these little these little cardstock things. This was some scrapbook paper that I bought. If you don't have scrapbook paper that's heavy duty like this, or you can take a watercolor paper and you can make any, like this is a watercolor paper that was, it's a wash of color, and I stamped that on it. But you can also do something like that on top. And I always like to edge my cardstock with ink. So like in this case, you can see the brown ink. I already did it. But let's say I wanted to do that with the band. If I want to make it more interesting and finished, you can take your ink and just move your ink along the sides of your paper. And what it does is it just finishes it off. It gives that raw white edge. It gets rid of that, and it makes it look more finished. I could have done that on the belt on this. I think it would have looked really neat. So I didn't do it. I was kind of in a hurry. But that's a nice way to finish off your paper edges. And it really gives it a really nice, clean, finished edge. And you can do that with all the edges that are raw. The folded edges, you don't need to, but like for instance, I would have done it with this. I could have finished that edge and it would have looked nice. So that is my demo.